Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a pleasant 2 weeks away. I don't make videos often because this is not a full-time job for me. So I do this because I can and when I have the time, which is right now. So, did you know that the centrists and not the extremists are the most hostile people to democracy? Isn't that amazing, considering the things we've seen over the last, 5, 10 years? With Marxism being fully... Alright. Somebody's got a nice car outside. With Marxism being fully in swing at every academic level, we see it in almost every business. We see the feminist intersectionality being pushed through diversity and inclusion. We see the Marxists pushing for full Marxism in other locations, in like the UK, for example. And just so much more when people get jailed as a probable centrist for making a joke. Literally jailed. Or, well, in one case, fined and threatened with jail time. I put into question this particular claim. So this came from the New York Times. It was on May 23rd. Mr. David Atler claims that democracy is under hostile threat from the centrists, not the extremists. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's go through this article really quick. So, where does he get this claim? Well, the warning signs are flashing red. Democracy is under threat. And you see the candidates are more authoritarian. The party seems more volatile. Citizens are hostile to the norms and institutions of liberal democracy. Well, this is very true. Black Lives Matter is notorious for marching down the street and saying this.
Bacon, fry like bacon! Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon!
But let's jump into his case and his claim here a little bit. It'll be very interesting. So, he says the trends have prompted major debate between whose view and political discontent as economical, cultural, or generational in origin. But all of these explanations share one basic assumption. The threat is coming from the political extremes. Well, this is the claim, and it seems to be very probable, to say the least, considering what they're asking for and who currently is in power and fighting to keep it. So on the right, you have ethno-nationalists. Libertarians are accused of supporting fascist policies. Libertarians? Okay. On the left, you have campus radicals, and the so-called Antifa movement are accused of betraying liberal principles. The so-called Antifa movement. This is in May of this year. It's so-called Antifa movement. You know, the one that was designated a terrorist organization by the FBI as a so-called movement. Okay. Let's continue. Let's see. Across the board, the assumption is that radical views go hand in hand with support for authoritarianism, while moderation suggests a more committed approach to the democratic process. But is it true? Well, this guy claims maybe not. He did research, supposedly. Suggests that across Europe and Northern America, centrists are the least supportive of democracy and the least committed to its institutions and the most supportive of authoritarianism. His research. Interesting. Well, he said he examined data from the most recent World Values Survey and the European Values Survey, two of the most comprehensive studies of public opinion carried out over 100 countries. The survey asked respondents to place themselves on a spectrum, far left, center, far right. I then plotted the proportion of each group supported in key democratic institutions, and he copied his work and his analysis here. So, you see down here he shows the models of centrist are most skeptical of democracy. Well, democracy is mob rule, so of course that would be suspect. The one that works so far is the representative republic, which is what the Americas have, where the people in the middle, the flyover states that no one seems to care about, are the ones with the most majorital power. That sucks for anybody that thinks that the mob rules. So when you have Hillary Clinton claiming that she won the highest GDP locations, and of course everyone loves her, but the center states did not vote for her, and they're just a basket of deplorables, according to her. Well, maybe they're the centrists then, because they just don't like her particular non-authoritarian rule. Right. What I found interesting in looking in this data is they're saying that the centrists, the far left and the far right, are the ones that least rank democracy and least rank a bunch of other demographical or contextual points that he put together, along with saying that centrists are the most authoritarian as well. If you see down here, the United States are least likely to support free and fair elections. Essential for the future. The percent of the people who choose leadership in a free election is essential to democracy. Claiming that centrists across the board, save Germany, are the ones that say no, a free and fair election is not supportive. Really? Alright, well, I think that's interesting take there too. But let's go down a little bit further. Centrists are most supportive of authoritarianism, except for the far right. So I'm guessing this person's very left-leaning, if the so-called Antifa are not a problem. As you see here, centrists are kind of right in the middle. However, if you look in Germany, of course, the far right's the biggest problem on the planet, right? Yeah, they're absolutely a problem. And if you look at the averages across for the middles, yellow being the centrists, all of these people seem to support authoritarianism. Well, that doesn't seem accurate considering what has been observed. So does this data actually align with reality given the studies that he cited and used, the surveys, for example? I wondered that, so I dove into his data. And look what I found. So his distribution of political views, excuse me, on table 1, you see that the distribution here shows a n value and it goes up, and these are the people that rank themselves, and it's claiming that all these people, about 1/3 of this entire data segment, is claiming that they're right smack in the middle, centrist. So this is what I find very interesting. What he cites in the sentence right after leaves me in high suspect of this data group and the way he grouped everything together. But first, before I get into that, key independent variables is responding left to right position. The survey asks respondents to place themselves on a spectrum from left to right, as the table 1 shows. There is a balance in the survey between left, right, and center. And then he recoded the data within 5 groups. Far left 1, 2, center left 3, 4, center 5, 6, so on and so forth. So, right off the bat, I said, okay, well the survey asked them to place themselves within this spectrum. But would that be accurate? Would that be a good way to measure somebody's relationship between the left-right policies? Do they even know what is considered left and right at this point, considering the way things have been over the last 10 years or so? I question this emphatically, but he claims in a citation that several studies have validated the use of left-right self-placements in cross-national analysis. However, some reasonable concerns remain. It is possible that respondents place themselves at the center when they are confused or when they do not care enough to take sides. Yes, why do you think the majority responded 1/3 of a few thousand people? This is not a small study. This is a quite large quantitative study. A few thousand people said, I'm centrist. Why? That means that 1/3 of these people did not know if they're far left or far right. They don't know if they're left, right, or middle. They don't know where they sit in the spectrum. Chances are the ones that claim they're left and right are probably in the same boat. I would put this entire table, the entire concept of the table, in a very suspenseful lens, meaning that the rest of the data, the rest of his claims, have to be erroneous at that point. If he's claiming that this data is accurate, but there's concerns remaining, why would you use the data in the first place? If you say it's valid, then great. But why is there concerns? If the data, if it's not valid anymore, it's because no one knows really what left and right and center really are. Have they done the political test? Have they done any of the online political tests? That would give you a far better measurement than what this does. In fact, I guarantee you that in political science in particular, there have been measurements created to do just that. So why wouldn't you use one of those? Because this data was already readily available, therefore making it easier for you to do the study. And this study then proves your point, interestingly enough. It's clear to me that this person is far left because of the way the rest of the article is written. I'll link in the description for that, and a link in the description for his data. He links it anyways, but I'm still going to link it because why not? It's on a Google Drive. But this is why I have a problem with this claim. If your key data, your key metric to claim that centrists are authoritarian, anti-democracy, and whatnot is flawed, then everything else about your study is therefore flawed. All the rest of the findings that you claim to have doing your quantitative analysis of the different aspects and responses of this data are then insuspect, because your original case data, your dependent variable, the thing that is driving the rest of your study, is erroneous. If there's concerns, then why use it? Is my point. It shouldn't have been used. You should have taken the time to survey or create a survey and then validate that survey, mind you, to determine whether or not somebody is left, right, or center. And if they land in the spectrum that is actually the grid plot analysis, the XY axes plus and minus, is a far better measurement of political alignment than any other measurement that I've seen thus far. Granted, it's still probably not perfect because it depends on the politics in the region, so you have to kind of gear it toward each country, thus making it a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible to put something together like that and then survey everywhere just to determine if your claim is true. In fact, that might be something I might do at one point in time, is create something like that just to prove you wrong, because if your key data, your first data, is erroneous, then the rest of your claims are also erroneous, therefore false. You have yet to prove anything. But anyways, I thought I'd bring this little gem up for you because I read this and went, what the hell? And I just left this on my desktop and I haven't touched it for since this came out. I mean, this came out on the 23rd and it's now the 8th, so you know, it's been sitting there for a couple weeks. I haven't touched it. Next thing coming up for me, I've been doing a lot of reading lately, and one of these things I've been reading directly affects Bering, in fact. I've been trying to get a hold of him so I could at least do an interview or something with him and have a chat, because he reached out to me on Twitter and then he gets kicked off. And then he reached out again and he got kicked off again.
Fat, fuzzy, brown cunt. What a silly cunt. Fucking cunts. Cold-hearted cunts. What a cunt. You heard him, you dumb cunts. You fucking piece of shit, white scumbag, oppressive cunt. White devil, smug cunt face. I'm not a huge, massive cunt, but just a regular-sized cunt. Ruthless cunt. You deaf cunt. You dumb cunt. That'd be a cunt of a thing to say. Mate, you are a cunt of the highest order. And I mean that in the most offensive way I can mean it. You are a cunt. Cunt.
It hasn't been a very good experience, but needless to say, he can reach me through the YouTube, plus he can find me through my Glenn Vickers DM if he wants to go there. Actually, the AxiomPrinciple.com is probably better because the other one's going to die. I'm giving up on that domain. AxiomPrinciple.com, Glenn V at AxiomPrinciple.com. You could reach me there. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. I thought it was pretty entertaining that somebody would claim that centrists are the most most threatening thing to democracy, when you got both left and right playing identity politics, both wanting socialism, both wanting communist utopias, and both saying that the left and the right get the bullet too. I mean, seriously? If Antifa is centrist, that's amazing. That's, yeah, wow. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for those that have stuck around, that'll subscribe to me, all 68 of you. I appreciate that. It's been interesting. I try to produce content more, but it clearly doesn't happen. I've actually not even recorded on my podcast because I've not had the time. This new position I got myself into has eaten most of that time. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.